Good afternoon, everyone. I am Cristina Garibbo, and I'm a 16-year-old student at the American School of Milan. It is an honor to be here. Today, I will be introducing the topic of controlled environments. Imagine a world where every town has its own local food source, and a simple elevator ride can transport you to nature's grocery stores. These are the words of Dixon Despommier, describing the future of indoor and vertical farming. Both of these are examples of controlled environments, which regulate conditions such as light exposure, air quality, and temperature to ensure stability and an optimum condition for growth. The UN projects the population to grow up to 9.8 billion people by 2050, with most of us living in the cities. The world's resources will not only have to ensure the provision of food for all of us, but also make it accessible in densely populated areas. Technologies such as indoor and vertical farming can help support us, not only by providing food in a more efficient and local manner, but also by preserving our environment through the better control of the resources we utilize every day. As a teenager, I do worry about the future, and I hope our current generation will focus on the provision of healthy and fresh food for all, while also keeping in mind the preservation of our planet. Thank you.
Controlled environments, future of the billion-dollar indoor and vertical farm industry. Well, we got it wrong already. It's a trillion-dollar industry, and it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And I'm going to hopefully give you some understanding of numbers, facts, and figures so that you can know why. We are here on this big marble, and we're all going in the same direction. When you look at it, there's no cultures, people, borders, nations. There's no division. We're all going the same place. We're all Homo sapiens moving together. But why are we here? And I like this kind of cosmic perspective, this overview effect of our world. And I think numbers and systems are very important to understand. This is a temperature timeline of our Earth, and it goes from 800,000 years until current, and you see this change in the top right, where the temperature stabilizes. We call that a Goldilocks effect or a greenhouse effect, which made conditions ripe for farming and agriculture. Why is this important? Because that's what moved us out of our hominin, hunter-gatherer phase into a farming agriculture phase. It's been around for a long time, and exactly it's been around for 12,000 years. It is the world's oldest and most successful economy. Many people have forgotten that and have not seen that. They don't realize that. We see food as just everyday and natural and no big deal, and we've given our authority and our right and our decision about food to other people. But I want you to know that the economies that we live in today, the economy we have today, it's not the oldest, it's not the best, it's pretty broken. But the agrarian society is how it all started. It was a precursor to the Industrial Revolution. It's 12,000 years old, and it's important that you put that into perspective with a couple other numbers that I'm going to give you. So, adapting to climate change means ensuring food security, but there's some statistics we might not be well aware of. 75% of the world's diet is made up of 12 plant species and 5 animal species. If you look at the population of our planet today, the blue marble I showed you, that is not very diverse. And if you think about the future of where we're going to be, whether it's 9, 9.5, or 10 billion people on this planet, these numbers don't jive. There is something wrong. And so I want to put into perspective with you how some of these numbers and things need to be looked at and how they relate to you as someone on this planet. So why do we need to act? Why do we need to transform our food system? Is because 800 million people are undernourished, suffering from hunger. More than 1.9 billion adults are overweight, of whom 600 million are obese. So in some cities we have people starving to death, dying of starvation, and in that very same city we have people who are overweight and obese, but still malnutrition because their caloric intake is very high. It's a lot. They eat a lot of things, but there's no nutrients, minerals, and vitamins in what they eat. Diarrhea diseases kill about 1.5 million children a year, and by 2050, meat consumption will increase to almost 73% compared to 2010. So these are some other numbers I want you to put into perspective of our world's population and that we hear thrown around. Well, what is the food system? We're moving away from a siloed or linear lateral view of the world, and this food system is very complex, made up of production, processing, packaging, transportation, ends up at waste, and actually should continue over and over and over again. Last year, August 2nd, we had what was called Earth Overshoot Day. Basically, that's a day where we went beyond the resources available on our planet, finite resources, water and energy, and things to grow and produce food to live a long life. If we all lived like Americans, they say that we would need 5 planets worth of resources, but we only have one planet. On the very first slide, you saw that. So after August 2nd, we were living at a deficit. And this comes from yearly studies. This last release was in 2017, but it comes from data that's collected over time that came out in 2013. Per person, to live a long, ripe old age, we need 1.7 global hectares per person. But everybody on this planet altogether, we're using 2.87 average global hectares per person. That means we're running at a deficit, our resource overshoot of 1.17 per person. And on a planet of finite resources, that's very devastating. One interesting fact that people might not know, and it's increasing exponentially every day, is that we lose 23 hectares of land every single minute due to contamination of soil, drought, and flood. Here's another kind of a statistical thing, but it's called the Doomsday Clock. It was founded by the Atomic Society of Albert Einstein and some other great scientists. And last year they updated us, or actually this year, the latest update was 2 minutes to midnight, because they added about 5 years ago climate change to the whole equation. So we live in a world that's growing exponentially around us. We have exponential growth with technology, we have exponential growth with population, and many, many other things. But as humans, we're thinking linear and lateral. And so I want you to understand that with this exponential growing world, and we have the Doomsday Clock, and we have this Earth Overshoot Day, that the numbers or the exponential growth of humanity isn't keeping up with the movement and the exponential growth around us in the world. We are on a planet of finite resources, and everything is increasing. So agriculture and food and beverage is a leading cause of global warming. Most people don't understand that it's not the oil, gas, and coal industry. They're on the list, lower down in the list, but the number one is our industry. We're all experts here, and I want you to really understand these numbers. So we have a great thing, it's called the Planet Protection Plan, or the Sustainable Development Goals. They're laid out very linear, all 17 of them. But this is not how we need to view them. This is a very siloed approach and very linear and lateral, but we really need to view them like a cake or a pie, because all 17 of the United Nations SDG goals are intrinsically tied to food. And the bottom layer there is our finite resources of how we grow food. Here's another example. You've probably seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What's at the very bottom? Breathing, food, water, sex, right? Food. It's at the very bottom. It's the very basic of human needs. It's the most important job and thing that we need every single day. But we've given it the most worst position and importance ever in the time of history. Food is not important. We're not making it important. For 12,000 years, we're contaminating more soil. We have bigger food waste. We have bigger problems around this issue, and we've turned over our decisions to the top 10 food makers to decide how to produce food for us. We've taken it out of our hands, but it's the most important thing for humans. The food industry, not only in the EU, is the largest sector. It's in the trillions of euros. It employs more than 40%. I'm just talking about Europe because we're in Europe. And it's the least digitized industry in the world. And my friend Kimball Musk said food is bigger than the internet. And it is true, because we just saw it's something that all of us need. So let's make these jobs, farmers, and food important. Let's not leave this up to someone else to do. What does this have to do with controlled environmental agriculture? Well, here's the Sustainable Development Goals, and 11 of them are tied to food, but 6 I've focused on specifically, and I've come up with a circular economy approach to revolutionize the beverage and food industry and apply this to a 100% sustainable method. The solution that I have and that I work is called the Anya Aloha's Eco Center. It's a large-scale 1,000+ hectare controlled environmental agriculture in Germany, in northern Germany. It's run by renewable energy, Tesla Power Pack battery backup, ambient water harvesting, rainwater recycling. That's my solution. That's what I've done. But what I want to talk about with the controlled environmental agriculture is that how many vertical farms, how many greenhouses do you think there are in the world? How many controlled environmental agriculture is there? Or how many, just say, vertical farms are there? 1,200? 500 or 600. For vertical farming, there's 1,200 and growing every single day. For controlled environmental agriculture, there's less than 200. For greenhouses and vertical farming, we can get up into the thousands. But if you know the population of the world, is that enough? When we talk about food diversity, it's not. And those companies, those vertical farms and those controlled environmental agriculture, they are in places in the Western world. There's very few in places like Africa or India or Bangladesh. And so I'm just running through some slides of what our center looks like and why it's called the Aloha Eco Center, Adaptive Lifestyle of Health and Sustainability. And it's an eco center because it's a system. It's based on one planet living, a circular economy approach, a closed system. And I speak at a lot of events. I speak with people like InFarm, Aero Farms, Sky Farms. Marco's here. I speak with a lot of different people who are in this industry of controlled environmental agriculture or even greenhouse. I come from 4 generations of hydroponic farmers. So it's very important to put the numbers in perspective that we're not competing against each other. We could literally have 100,000, 500,000, 1 million vertical farms, controlled environmental agriculture, closed systems, nurseries in the world to feed the population of the world in the future. And so to bicker about who has the best system, the best innovation, how to do it the best, it's not right. And we need to understand those numbers and put them into perspective. And Albert Einstein, I've mentioned a couple times, he said it best: we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. We need to change. And global food reform is the key, because this is our world. Agriculture and the food and beverage industry is a leading major cause of human suffering, climate change. As I wrap it up real quick, if you slow down or reduce your speed while driving on the highway in the wrong direction, you're only going slower in the wrong direction. So when I see annual reports of big companies or small companies that say we're reducing our carbon emissions by 40%, it doesn't mean a thing. That's like saying you're stabbing someone 40% slower or shooting someone with a 40% bullet slower. As John Kerry said it so eloquently this morning, it's like an insurance plan. We buy insurance for our house and our cars, right? But we're not buying it for our planet. We're not investing anything. We must stop and reverse our direction. Figure out that the systems we've been using for 12,000 years are wrong, innovate, and move in the right direction, because continuing this just does not work. And here's the top ways to do that: globally reform food, empower women, empower girls, and rethink refrigerants. That's the way we can stop and reverse global warming. That's the way we can fix our food system, because they are all tied together. Make an ego shift to an eco shift. And my famous last words is from Galileo, is we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Nelson. I'm the co-founder of Nelson & Pate Incorporated, and our company specializes in aquaponic food production. I'd just like to say I'm honored to be here today to share with you our passion for this technology, and I want to thank Seeds and Chips for the opportunity to be here. There we go. So our company is based in Montello, Wisconsin, which is in the center of the United States of America. We help people get started and become successful in aquaponics, which is simply raising fish and plants together in an integrated system. We do this by providing science-based, proven aquaponic systems, comprehensive training, and long-term grower support. Our impact is global, and currently, the aquaponic systems that we provide are used in 27 different countries. We teach an aquaponics masterclass, and we've had people travel to us from over 100 countries. So there's a great interest in this technology, and aquaponics is truly a key part of the future of this billion-dollar controlled environment industry. When I grow up, I want to be an aquaponic farmer. This was proclaimed recently by an 8-year-old girl who wants to grow up and raise fresh fish and vegetables to provide food for her community. To me, there's no greater vision to the future of this industry than a young girl who has these aspirations to be a farmer providing fresh food for her community using aquaponics technology. Aquaponics is a sustainable and very, very efficient means of food production, and it's used in many applications around the world. When you look at the parts of aquaponics and where it comes from, essentially we raise fish in tanks, and we feed those fish. That's our one main input, is fish food. The fish waste leaves the fish tanks and breaks down through natural biological processes, releasing the nutrients we need for plant growth. The plants, as they pull those nutrients out of the water, help to clean the water for the fish. It's a very sustainable system because we don't need inputs other than fish food. And we harvest both fish and vegetables from one integrated system. Some important things to keep in mind about the systems that we have developed for aquaponic food production. We use 1/6 of the water to grow 8 times more food per given space. Think about that. 1/6 of the water for 8 times more food. And this is proven. It isn't a concept. We have these systems running around the world. We demonstrate it every single day. So these advancements are so far from what we can achieve in traditional agriculture. You can really start to see the potential of what we do. Another very important factor is we don't use pesticides because they would kill our fish. We don't use herbicides because we don't have any weeds in a soil-free system. And we don't need chemical fertilizers because all of the nutrients are generated as that fish waste breaks down. Now, aquaponics and controlled environment agriculture, they go hand in hand. When you take our aquaponic systems and put them in a greenhouse or in a warehouse, a building, a food bunker, any controlled environment, it allows us to grow 365 days a year. And the way we design our systems are for continuous food production. We harvest food every single day of the year. Very, very different than outdoor agriculture, where you plant a seed and you cultivate, you fertilize, you water, and you wait. In our aquaponic systems, every day we're seeding, we're transplanting, and we're harvesting fresh food. And this is so important. You know, we have our systems around the world, but when we talk about people needing nutritious food, we talk about good health and wellness, our systems produce protein and vegetables, all from that one integrated system. 2 very important parts of a healthy diet. One of our company's goals is food security for all nations. And we work daily toward this goal by providing systems that embrace the science of aquaponics. And we standardize these systems, we standardize the methods, we standardize the training, and we standardize the long-term support. As an industry, the advancements that have allowed us to grow, that have allowed us to bring this technology into an era of commercial viability, profitability, and sustainability, those advancements include better understanding of the microbiology of the system. It all comes back to the science. Better biofiltration, more crop choices and crop diversity in our aquaponic methods. Those are the advancements that is bringing us into a whole new level of awareness and understanding of aquaponic food. Now, this map shows where our aquaponic systems are around the world. We have customers using aquaponics for home food production. We have schools and universities around the world using our systems. We have commercial growers earning profit from our ClearFlow aquaponic systems that Nelson and Pate Incorporated manufactures, builds, and shares with our customers. And there's one more star up there, a purple star. These are individuals who are licensing and distributing our technology to bring into their individual industries that include wellness, they include medical cannabis, they include food security and education. So who is driving this growth? Individuals and entrepreneurs, investors, governments, educators, and entrepreneurs. When you look at who is aquaponic farming around the world, you've got people from every walk of life, whether they're a commercial farm or a nonprofit, whether they're a school or a social project, they're using this technology to provide fresh food for their community. Again, when we combine with a controlled environment, we can do this anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter the climate because we're growing indoors. So, in summary, what really drives our growth are the need for fresh food, our ever-increasing population and demand for high-quality food, the lack of water and the lack of land for traditional farming, and our minimal inputs. Those are the factors that drive our industry forward. Aquaponics is an industry that's growing rapidly around the world. We see it every single day, and we're seeing the impact of this technology. When you think about what aquaponics is, natural, sustainable, and highly efficient production system, I think you'll understand why aquaponics and Nelson and Pate Incorporated are critical components to the future of this billion-dollar controlled environment agriculture industry. Thank you for listening. We do have a booth here at the show, and I would love to talk to any of you more about aquaponics. We're in S11, so we'll be here for the next couple of days. And thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harald, and one of the co-founder of Robonica. What is Robonica? We're an Italian-based startup, and our aim is to get access to fresh, healthy foods for everybody, starting from the top, so from the higher end of the market, like Tesla made, so first model, which is expensive, which richer people can afford, and then moving down and democratizing the access. Our story, we are a young company. We are 2.5 years. We are working deeply in our project, and we are ready to ship to the first of our units. It has been a long journey. It's complicated, all kinds of project, as speaking from before. It's multidisciplinary, so you have biology, you have chemistry, you have plastics, you have lighting. For indoor environment agriculture, it's quite a complex argument for our future. Our current pains in the world are already known. We are wasting our water, we have less space, and we need to improve our efficiency. Also, all the supply chain in the food production, it's quite a complex issue to solve. Indoor agriculture, it's a scalable and technologically supportable solution, so everybody could start from a small unit, scaling up to real vertical farms, and that's made possible by technology. Our first solution, it's called Lympha. We are an Italian-based startup, and beside its size, this object is not a toy. So it has a really complex LED light. It has a micro camera inside, which we can use to make pictures of the plants that are growing inside. It has control over all the parameters of temperature and humidity, so it's a small controlled environment agricultural unit, and it has an automated dosing system. And it's designed to be user-friendly, so it's easy, it's 3 steps. You just buy it, you plug it in, you sow your seeds, you add water, and then it starts growing for itself. As Italians, we have absolutely no traction at all if it's about technology, so we had to hide it in a beautiful design. So as Italians, we have traction on design, so we hide our technology inside it. Also, as Italian, we have traction of food, so we know how to make great, tasty food and also how to transform this food, Italian pesto or simply basic things that all the world admires us. The Internet of Food, before I said, Kimball said that the food industry, it's bigger than the internet. And actually, what about making a patch and saying, let the internet grow your food? So all our machines are connected to the internet. The company doesn't stop at its small size product. We are already developing bigger farms that are completely autonomous and independent. So for today, they're simply replicating pre-made recipes from agronomists, but in the future, through software that can analyze like images, size, shape, color detection, we can make autonomous system to grow our food locally. It has multiple applications. We started small because I don't know if there's Italian in the room, I guess so. In Italy, raising capital, it's really difficult. So if you go to investors and try to say, we want to make a vertical farm like Arrow Farms does, we get no traction at all. But the technology inside, it's scalable. So the whole platform could be used to make bigger units. This is a call to architects or to people who have greenhouses and want to try to improve their harvest. Our vision is to grow like everywhere. Bill Gates' vision was to put a computer on every desk and in every house. Our vision is to grow on every desk, in every house, and even on top of it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today at this event. And I'm happy to talk to you about Sproutio. This is the story of a beet that in 5 days from today will be a part of a dish competing in the San Pellegrino Best Young Chef competition. Sproutio makes this possible by growing indoors, year-round, soil-free. Sproutio is comprised of the growing device, the compostable Scio seed consumable, and Sproutio grows software services to grow produce seamlessly, personal produce, delicious, tasty produce tailored to your taste. The story began in summer of 2016 with Chef John Taube. We were on the roof of the Nomad Hotel and Restaurant in New York City, and he was excitedly walking us through his meandering garden on the rooftop of the building. This was a difficult experiment. He was growing during the summer months, which were swelteringly hot, and trying to grow, if he could, during the winter months, which of course are bitter cold in New York, always with wind whipping by on the top of the building. Chef John has a passion for cooking, and he wanted to have the freshest ingredients that he could find. He was well matched with our passion for growing personal produce, and so we knew that we could do something very special together. That next spring, literally 1 week before their sister restaurant won Best Restaurant in the World, we installed a kitchen garden for Chef John. And we grew 9 different types of produce. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But they'll share some of their experience growing with Sproutio. First this slide. So we grew 9 different types of produce with Chef John and the Nomad team. They grew everything from azrilla to carrot tops to red mustard, all very unique produce. And we looked at harvest, we looked at yields, we looked at system performance, and we were looking at their menu planning and how we could grow produce as needed and desired for their menu planning. And here's what they had to say about the experience. Oh, I think we're missing sound. I could try to restart it. Wonderful.
When I first saw the units, I was just really kind of dumbfounded, like how much thought went into everything. Just as us now have 9 units downstairs, it just blows my mind that we've come from this mysterious item to where we are now, you know, and that was really cool. Everything that we've harvested from the Sproutio is literally comes out perfect, which is hard to say is possible. From the dill to all the basils, all the leaves are just perfect. I mean, they're all alive. There's no insect damage, there's no sun damage or anything. It's in the perfect environment. So for us to get 100% yield on that is really impossible anywhere else.
If you tell people what you're eating is actually from something we grew in the kitchen and the New York City kitchen, you kind of get that like kind of skeptical look. And it's, I think in the future it could be something that other kitchens could show their guests. It kind of creates a whole new experience. Anytime we can give a guest a new experience, it's like really exciting for us.
Having the Sproutio in our kitchen itself makes it priceless in the sense that we can't get this produce anywhere else. We grow it for ourselves, specifically for our guests. It's amazing to say, only we have this.
It's great because you could see the product through its entire lifespan, and in that creates its own possibility. You know, before like arugula, maybe it's better when it's a sprout. You would have never known that without Sproutio.
It's not just something that comes in this big bag. They're actually picking it by hand. They watch it from literally a tiny little sprout all the way till it's its full maturity, and I think it's like, I think you respect it more. And it shows on the plate. you're going to get the best product humanly possible. It's growing right there. It's the freshest it can possibly be. And I can choose what piece that I want. It's perfect. It's really what every chef wants.
It's as close to having a window overlooking a field in a basement in New York City as you can get to.
Sproutio met the exacting demands of chefs like Chef John, who expect to have the best quality food. With Sproutio technology, we can deliver the highest quality food, the best tasting food. So last fall, Chef John reached out to us after he won the US title for the San Pellegrino Best Young Chef competition. And for his competing world title dish, he wanted to grow beets, and he wanted perfect beets. And as many of you may know here in the audience, beets are very difficult to grow in aquaculture, and of course, he wanted to grow the best possible beets, and a lot of them. So our research team began growing. We grew various trials at different sizes of beets. We grew 15 different cultivars, some of which you've heard of, many of which you haven't heard of. With Sproutio, we're able to grow a variety of produce at your fingertips, a world of produce at your fingertips. And so Chef John began sharing his tasting notes and progress photos of the dishes in development. And we used this feedback to continue growing and narrowing the set of cultivars that we were growing for his dishes. He would provide us feedback on the acidity, the flavor, etc. And then we would continue these trials and refine them, incorporating them into our growing profiles, which are essentially recipes for growing each type of produce within our system. And once again, Sproutio met the exacting demands of Chef John, who cares about producing the best quality food. And that's what we did for him. The dish speaks for itself. We wish Chef John the very best for the competition next weekend. We know that this is just the beginning of his journey, and we're grateful to be a part of it. Thank you so much for coming by today, and we invite you to come and see us. We're actually outside in the arena area, and we'd be happy to show you some of the beets that we're growing for the competition this weekend. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco Tidona. I'm the inventor of the Aquaponics vertical barrel. And I'm going to give you a quick perspective on how today's value chains that are supposed to deliver us fresh and nutritious food, mainly to our supermarkets, fail, and how we can fix that growing in a more hyperlocal way. I think on an event like this, most of you already know that the groceries you buy from your supermarket do not contain as many nutrients as you might think. And this is due to the fact that we have very long value chains and we impose a lot of handling on all these perishable goods. And it's just simply due to the fact that once you technically harvest a living plant, it starts to internally degrade, so you lose all vitamins and secondary metabolites and antioxidants and all the stuff that you actually like to have in your food. You can slow this down a little bit by cooling and all sorts of technology, but you cannot stop it or reverse it. To give you an example, a simple head of lettuce travels an average of 1,500 food miles to get to your supermarket, is on the road for 7 to 10 days, and has already lost half its key nutrients on this way. So it's a really significant degradation. There's many other factors that actively degrade the food that comes through this value chain. I cannot go through all of these, but the one that always annoys me when I go to the grocery store, because I grow this stuff myself and I know there's many varieties like mustard greens or salad or even basil. There's hundreds of varieties which are really tasty, but they do not have a shelf life, and for that reason you will not find them in any supermarket. And yeah, as an end consumer, you should have a strong interest in getting fresh produce. And this is what we call hyperlocal edible plant production. And there's no solid definition for hyperlocal, but I would say between the actual harvest and consumption, there should be no more than 24 hours, which is really short. And there should be no more than 100 food miles. And if you do it right, you have 0 food miles. And it's problematic because you need large cultivation areas to grow this stuff. For example, to run an economically viable farm, you need at least 4,000 square meters of cultivation area. And I guess you will not find this in Milan City, you will not find this in New York City, and not even in Heidelberg, where I come from. So you need to find solutions to tackle this. And one solution is to go three-dimensional. And this is what we do at Aquaponics. So it basically works like this. You have a sample of a set of Lego parts that you assemble into ring segments. You can stack those ring segments as high as you like and set up different vertical barrels for different applications. I'm going to show you a few of these so you get the idea. This is the initial intention to have many vertical barrels just to fill a three-dimensional space most efficiently with lots of grow spaces to grow soilless plants. So this was the initial idea, to have a solution for commercial growers. This is how it looks in real production. These images have been taken in a research facility in Heidelberg, where I come from. On the left, you see the seedlings 7 days into production. And on the right side, you are ready to harvest after 21 days. And these, this kind of growing or production is usually done in a controlled environment, what we call controlled environment agriculture. And this has many benefits in terms of saving resources. So you need a lot less water. You save 70 to 90% of the water compared to open field. You do not need any herbicides because you have no space for weeds to grow. You don't even need pesticides because you have a closed environment, and you can use beneficial insects. They cannot escape. That's really easy. And you can grow hyperlocal and close to the end consumer and grow all these varieties that I'm missing in the supermarket. This is just to show you the two-dimensional de facto standard, so you can get really dense here already, but it looks not really human-friendly. You do not have any space to go. Plant density here is 20 to 24 plants, but this is the absolute limit if you are 2D. If you go 3D, you start at around 40, 50, 60, 70, depending on how close you put your vertical barrels. And the main mission for us actually is to also see the prosumer to grow his own plants. So this is a standalone version where we just use a closed base and recirculate. And if soilless is not for you, here's a version that you can assemble and just fill it with soil. I put a wire mesh inside to have a little drainage gadget inside, but this is how I grow salad on my terrace. You can also hang the whole thing, and there's hidden features inside. We did a lot of thinking to set this up, and if you understood the versatility of the system so far, you can now imagine a hanging substrate-based version of the barrel. Irrigation is always from the top. The commercials who can afford a pressure line use a sprinkler. In the middle you see our water buffer, which is for low-tech irrigation, and you can also use aeroponics if you like. We've designed the whole thing with the user in mind because it needs to be practical and robust. The role model was always commercial production because you need to have lean processes, and we wanted to make this thing really hard to break and easy to clean. So there's no screws that you need to untie when you like to clean this thing, or if you point your power washer to it, there are no pieces flying apart. You just take down the ring segments and clean it with your power washer, restack and replant. There's a lot of new gadgets in the pipeline. The ones on the right have already been built. The interesting thing on the left side that I'm currently trying to get into serious production is the rotation base, which uses the top lid again to make the whole thing rotatable. Aquaponics has been very active since 2014. Don't try to read everything. The thing is patented. We went to major trade shows, went to a startup accelerating program. We are already in large series production and shipping globally, but we are at a point now where we are actively seeking for strategic partnerships to help us distribute. So if you happen to be a decision maker in such a company, I'd love to talk to you later. And in the meantime, we set up our own sales and make the planet aware that this equipment exists. And we'd like to see it more often in the list where people trying to plan those facilities, which are popping up all over the planet now, also consider the Aquaponics vertical barrel because they know it exists now. I'd like to close with a famous quote of one of my favorite urban farming superheroes. It's Stephen Ritz. I've already seen him. He's also on the conference. He's teaching a new generation of fearless gardeners how to take care of their body, nutrition-wise, and also for their planet they are living on. And he says, it's the greatest time in history to be a farmer, do it in a sustainable way, and fail successfully. So thanks for your attention.